What the fuck? Why does this keep happening? Why? I'm just so sick of having my time wasted arbitrarily because the developers don't know how to come up with any good ideas.
I'm going to talk about how long it takes to unlock flying in Zereth Mortis.
Okay.
What do you need to do? How long might you be forced to wait? And why this should upset you.
We've seen a couple of this guy's videos before. Usually he's pretty mild. So if he's being negative about something,
with what I think is a short 9.2 video. This is the PTR. It's just that now is a good time as any to give feedback, maybe get the attention of the Warcraft Community Council so they can...
Dude, this Community Council thing, man. Oh, man. The Community Council. So it's like, I really don't like the idea. Like, I think it's important to, like, listen to the community council, etc. Like, yeah, sure, you should have a community council, but in no way, shape, or form should their opinion be taken, like, more seriously than, like, average players that have better arguments. It matters, but it doesn't at the same time.
Help put a light on this, but otherwise, let's go. Here on screen is the big 9.2 feature, the Cypher Research Console, and maybe you're a little bit familiar with it by now if you've watched my previous coverage.
No.
In short, it's a fun little upgrade system that gives zone buffs and outdoor world perks and access to customization and cosmetics. Progressing through it employs time and farmable currency to work through, but for now, let's talk about time. Each of these research traits requires a research time. It starts off with a few minutes, but eventually, upgrades may take a day to research, some up to a week. You can research across these columns concurrently to save some time, but you'll soon learn that that's not a very big deal. At the moment, flying is locked behind an achievement for completing all of the ciphers. As of this build, the requirements of this achievement have changed. In the previous build, the achievement required researching at least 1 point in each of these traits. As you can see, some have only 1 point, others have 2 or more. Reaching this goal would take a minimum of 17.25 days, if you can also manage to farm up the currency needed as you go, which happens to be a total of 2,230 ciphers of the first one.
What?
These ciphers are found all over the zone.
Say that again.
22 managed to farm up the currency needed as you go,
17
which happens
days?
to be a total of 2,230 ciphers of the first ones. These ciphers are found all over the zone, from dailies and weeklies to world quests to treasures and rares and events. Keep in mind that this whole venture is not a mindless farm and then nothing but waiting. Assuming that you commit to diligent farming, you're going to unlock perks on an almost daily basis.
Cool.
That's going to make traveling easier.
It's not that, like, is this account wide? Is this account wide or not? Some people are saying yes, some people are saying no. It's an achievement, so probably. Flying is account wide always. But wait a second. This achievement isn't blue. And if it's not blue, that means that progress on this achievement is locked to one character. So if you progress on this achievement on one character, and then you play another character, you see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Then you go back to 0. It's character locked. So yes, it is technically account wide if you do everything on one character. Can it be blue if you completed it? No, blue is like it's complicated, okay? Like the way this fucking game works is complicated. Let's say that.
Assuming that you commit to diligent farming, you're going to unlock perks on an almost daily basis. That's going to make traveling easier, it's going to make your character stronger in the zone, and you'll find more things to do. Also important, you can start working towards this goal day 1 of the patch, so at least at the time, it wouldn't have been surprising if people were flying around while the race to World First was underway. Like I said earlier, that doesn't seem to be the case any longer. After this recent build, I tested researching this first column, and I put 1 point into each trait, just like before. After completing said research, the achievement no longer tracks that progression. Uh-oh. Let's not forget, though, we're on the PTR. I should point out another change in this build. This trait here was swapped around with this one, which only requires 1 point. This could have caused a bug with the tracking of this achievement, where it's still looking at these traits when it should be looking at the traits now in the first column. I'd like to give the benefit of the doubt, but for the sake of responsive feedback, I think we're better off just calling it as we see it. What I see seems really time-consuming and work-intensive, to say the least. If the previous version of the achievement needed about 17 or so days to complete the flight achievement, but the new version needs us to fill out the entire tree, this actually doesn't add as much time as one would assume, because you can research multiple traits at once as long as they're on different columns. Also, at the moment, these columns have to be unlocked
but it takes a resource that you have to farm in order to start the research. So it's not like there's no opportunity cost here. You're still farming a resource. A resource is easy to farm? Well, I'm sure it probably is, but it's still going to be time consuming.
And you can't go down a column until the topmost trait is research first. That unlocks the column. So our attention mostly rests on unlocking the entirety of this fourth column. The time it takes to reach the bottom of this fourth and final column is anywhere between 22 and 26 days. This information is taken from estimates from an earlier build, data mined from MMO Champion. This also assumes that within those 20 some odd days, the player will also need to farm up enough currency and be on top of completing the other research traits in each column as they go along, which means a lot of farming of Zereth Mortis and a lot of babysitting on this research. Let's try to get the full perspective here. This zone feature is
and this is also like assuming that you log on the moment that your research ends so you can do the research again, right? Okay, at least the ciphers don't have a cap. Yeah, at least that's a good thing. Yeah, so that's assuming that you do it immediately as soon as you will log on. So it's a month plus of gatekeeping. For a lot of people, this will be about 35 days of gatekeeping, right? Because they're going to probably do one a day. Realistically, most people will probably do one a day.
Zone feature is not going to be something that progression-minded players are going to hard farm for the sake of competitive rating. And I don't like giving critiques based on the most extreme player behavior. I can see how some people just wouldn't mind the cipher taking long to progress through, or require many weeks worth of diligent farming to unlock flight, and who would otherwise not really care about the minimum time it takes to fly. This feature is for the sake of getting some, cool mounts and pets.
I feel like not minding and it not being that bad are really bad arguments for the content being in the game. It's not that bad, and I don't care about it. Ooh, I don't know, man. I think that's kind of bad.
And feeling powerful in outdoor content. Why rush? But now let's go to my feedback. Despite not knowing exactly how this whole crafting mounts and pets thing is going to work,
that sounds really cool.
I feel very strongly that even if logically this thing is not a big deal, the research time is 99% unnecessary for the enjoyment of this feature. There's not a lot of excitement when you work your way to buy that new trait, only to click on it, and then you gotta wait 18 hours, or 6 days in the 18 hours.
Yeah, a week to research the trait. Like, what moron does this? What moron at Blizzard thinks to themselves, I know how to make this better. Let's make them wait a week from whenever they push the button to whenever it actually happens. It's mobile game gameplay. I feel like for like a game like New World, if they have something like this, you're not as what's the word for it? You're not as cynical about it, because New World, you just buy the fucking game. But with WoW, you pay monthly. So every time that they add something, it's like, oh, it takes a week. It takes 18 days. People look at it differently because they're paying per day. I am so sick of them trying to add in mobile game systems into a pay-to-play, subscription-based, expansion release MMORPG on the PC. What the fuck? Why does this keep happening? Why? I'm just so sick of having my time wasted arbitrarily because the developers don't know how to come up with any good ideas. Like, it makes no sense. Like, it's like, what is the upside for the player here? I think this is a really good question that you should ask, right? How does this make the player experience better? You know what I mean? Like, how does this long time frame, how does this make the player experience better? And I think the answer is very simply that it doesn't. That's it. It's just dragging things out for no reason.
Or is to enjoy it. It sort of takes that.
Why are you blaming the devs whenever these choices are made by corporate? Why are you blaming corporate whenever they're not the ones designing the game? I think that both of them are bad. I think the developers and the designers are morons, and I think the corporate just wants to extract as much money out of the game while they kill it. They're both bad. They're both incompetent. They have no idea. Nobody wants to play this shit. Yeah, it's not like, oh, it's not their fault. Yeah, it is. Also, WoW is not the only game with corporate behind it. Yeah, it's like you're comparing like corporate versus like Amazon and Square Enix. Corporate creates demands on developer to maximize income. If that's what's happening, in my opinion, I don't really care about any of that. Because you know what? If the developers really wanted to maximize it, they wouldn't be doing this system at all. They would make better content in general that was replayable. Like challenge modes in Mists of Pandaria. Like Mythic Plus in Legion. Like the Mage Tower in Legion. Like, let's see, progressive raiding in Burning Crusade, Vanilla WoW, and to some degree Wrath of the Lich King. They would actually make better content that keeps players logging on. So, no, I'm not going to just say like, oh, well, they had no other option. They had to make the game bad because the corporate wants them to make the game take longer. Well, it's like, so there's only two options here. You have week-long time gating for an arbitrary fucking new system that gets added, or not. Like, no, you can add other things into the game to make people play the game longer too. How about a good story? How about better PvP modes? How about more options, like things like the Timeless Isle that we used to have that are actually engaging and dynamic? How about actually think of new innovative solutions for the game rather than just taking something and making it take longer? So it is ultimately the designers and developers' fault, because they're the ones that can't come up with any good ideas, so corporate forces them to take bad ideas. Do you understand? It's still their fault. That's why Square Enix doesn't fuck with Yoshi P that much, because the game is generally good. They don't need to exhume more money out of Final Fantasy XIV than they already do, because the game is already holding an audience. This is only happening because the developers' ideas are bad. You see what I'm putting? You see what I'm coming at? Like, you put a lot of demands on that last intern at Blizzard? Yeah, I know. I'm an asshole, aren't I? Yeah, it's crazy. Or maybe the devs are just incompetent because all the good ones left and all the new ones are hired not based on merit. I think there's a million problems. It's not any one thing. Square Enix is one of the evilest video companies in the world. I'm surprised Final Fantasy is as good as it is. Do you know why it's as good as it is? Because the developers and the people making the game make the game, and it's good and people like playing it. If Final Fantasy started losing a bunch of players and it started going down the tubes, Square Enix would say, hey, you've got to find more ways to keep these players sticking around in the game, and then you'd get the same features in Final Fantasy XIV. But because the game is good, it doesn't have these. These systems and these corporate demands are a response to bad development and bad design. You picking up what I'm putting down here? You catching what I'm throwing? You seeing what I'm saying? You getting where I'm going? Good.
Drill away. I know this is non-impactful for raiders, but it still makes no difference for the sake of...
Literally nobody cares about raiding. Literally nobody cares. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, anything above heroic, nobody cares. It doesn't matter, like, how hard is mythic raiding? Who gives a fuck? Like 3 or 5% of the player base plays it. Like, the core content of the game, the core content that most people log on to do, is going to be Zereth Mortis. Do you know why patch 5.4 was good, even though it lasted for an entire year in Siege of Orgrimmar? Because Timeless Isle was awesome. Like, raiding is not, like, this is the problem with the WoW community, is that the WoW community, WoW is this big of a game. And the community turns it into this big of a game. You've got raiding, and you've got Mythic Plus, and you've got PvP Arena. That's it. You don't even have RPGs. Like, that's it. You don't even have, like, raid speedrunning hardly. It gets just this little, tiny, narrow vision of the game. And because the player base, and why is this happening? Well, it's because a lot of the people that make content for the game are part of that high-end community. So it overrepresents it. But the truth is that just going and, like, what is my most popular content in World of Warcraft? It is, yeah, doing the normal mode raid on the first day so people can see it. Yeah, it's very popular. But what is the ongoing fun content that I do? It is playing with other people. Transmog comps, doing like a raid with like all tanks, and oh man, also we're gonna do like a you know, like a mount off. Everybody gets on different mounts and stuff like that. Like getting mounts, like just all of the casual cool stuff. And like going over to like Moonguard and looking at like role players and like just having fun in a digital space and enjoying your time playing the game. It's not all about raiding. It's not all about, you know, high-end arena PvP. So the idea that, oh, it doesn't affect raiding, it doesn't affect your character's power, who gives a fuck? That's only one reason why people play the game. If Blizzard removed mythical utility, made LFR a little harder, do you think it would take some sweatiness out of the game? No, that wouldn't be good either. The solution, in my opinion, I think you have two difficulties. You combine LFR and normal, and you combine heroic and mythic, and you cut down the high end on both of them. And the low end. You take some of the super easy LFR fights, take them out of the game, take some of the super hard mythic fights, take them out of the game. Nobody gives a fuck about that stuff except for like maybe a few hundred people, and actually make good content that feels good to progress through. Nobody wants to sit through, and whenever I say nobody, I don't mean nobody. Obviously, some people want to sit through it, but there are a lot of people who they do a fight like Heroic Sylvanas, and they get to the third phase, and before they even do it, they just don't want to play the game anymore. It's not fun. It's not fun game design. It's not fun gameplay. So despite like whatever you think, oh, it's so hard, it's so difficult, it's so challenging, who cares, number one. Number two, it's not fun to do. So it's like raiding in Mythic. Wow, the reason why I don't raid in Mythic anymore is a lot of reasons, but one reason is that it's just simply not fun. I don't enjoy myself whenever I'm waiting for the dumbest person in my raid to not make a mistake. This is not a fun experience for me. And I think there's a lot of people who feel the same way. Like, why is Mythic raiding still locked to servers? There's no reason. Literally no reason for that. It's not an enjoyable type of content. So I went off on kind of a tangent here. The point that I'm making is that Blizzard really needs to get their shit together and start thinking about casual players more. Because casual players, the middle of the road, so like you have, okay, this is the WoW player spectrum. Not that kind of, but the WoW player spectrum, okay? I'm just gonna put a few marks here. So this right here is the casual player. This guy doesn't even know about Blizzard controversy, okay? He has no idea. This guy logs on at night whenever his wife's asleep. He is the clueless Andy, only does LFR with wife, okay? Like, he just has no fucking idea at all. All right, this guy, Blizzard is not at risk of losing, okay? This guy, he doesn't give a fuck, right? He just plays the game, and that's all there is to it. Now, this guy here knows what his raider... world first raider, rank 1, glad, Mythic Plus champion. Mythic Plus, what's the MDI player? Okay, so Blizzard is not at risk of losing these individuals, okay? But you know what they are at risk of losing, and you know what they really have lost to Final Fantasy XIV, is everybody here in the middle. Because these individuals in the tail ends have convinced Blizzard that they are not the minority. They are wagging the tail, or they are the tail wagging the dog of the game, whenever in fact they're less than even a tail. This is less than 5 to 10% of the population that the game is being developed for. The game is no longer being developed to be a challenging but fulfilling experience that people can feel good about overcoming. It's being developed for this dipshit over here to be able to play the entire game while he's watching reruns of Grey's Anatomy with his wife, leveling up to 60 in Shadowlands. And it's also designed for this guy who's leveling up his 13th different mage so he can do split runs in his world first raiding guild because he took off of work for 2 weeks so he can try to actually get the rank 1 kill for the boss. You're not losing those people. Those people are not the audience. It's all of the guys in the middle who want a challenging, fun, and compelling game. And I see this content that gets added into the game, and it makes so much fucking sense why people are not playing WoW. It's because these people are not being catered to. This system does not appeal to the average player. The average player logs on and they see this and they're like, oh no. My mom quit WoW in patch 8.2 because she said that she's like, I'm getting goofed around again. Like, I got flying in WoD. I got flying in Legion. And now we're in BFA, I gotta get it again. Why the fuck I gotta do that? Why I gotta do that? I already did that. I gotta do it again. I'm done. Nah, fuck this. You're getting goofed around. Why you goofing me around, man? How do you know the first guy is not the majority, though? How do I know that he's not the majority? How do you know anything? I do not know that he is not the majority, but based off of my knowledge as being a person who creates content for World of Warcraft professionally for the better part of a decade now, I have been paying attention to, surveying the population, making content for this community for years. I think that there are a huge amount of people who are progression-minded, who are serious players, who play the game maybe an hour or two a day, maybe 10 hours a week, maybe like just 8 hours a week. Not a whole lot, but they play the game regularly and they care about it. These people care about having meaningful progression. And these systems are barriers to entry. And you know what my proof of that is? The success of a game like Dark Souls. Dark Souls is massively fucking successful because it doesn't treat the player like a brain-dead pussy. Like, that's what it is. It treats you like an actual person that can get better. It expects more out of you. And you know what else did? The Mage Tower. The Mage expected you to get better. The Mage Tower expected you to get better. And you know what people did? They got better gear. But they could do that, though, and it motivated them to get better gear. There's not this like hidden minority of these, legions of people that just don't care about their character at all and don't care about getting better. My mom was the most casual player in WoW. The last time that she did a raid was in Wrath of the Lich King, okay? Like, she just logged on, did world quests, managed her professions, sold things on the auction house, and did whatever the hell she wanted. And even she cared about getting better gear. This is what people play. They play MMOs and RPGs for. It's like, it's so like antithetical. Oh, well, I play an MMO. No, I don't care about getting better gear. No, I don't want to get better gear. I play the game. I just play the game. That's it. It's just ridiculous. They grind for something. They want to move towards a goal, even if they're not moving towards it quickly. Final Fantasy XIV proves you wrong, but it doesn't, though. That's what I'm saying, is it actually doesn't. Final Fantasy XIV doesn't have a lot of these walls that casual players have to deal with. That's the exact point that I'm making. Final Fantasy XIV has challenging content. You can go into that content and do it if you want to. There's a lot of it. There are a lot of casual and more serious things you can do in Final Fantasy XIV. And on top of that, it also has chill content, and you can decide what you want to do. And I think that ultimately you put this system in, this system affects the entire player base. It doesn't affect like a small group of people. Everybody has to interface with this system. And I don't think most people will like it. Yeah, it respects your time. I think that's the main thing that I hear a lot about. What do you think about players who are thinking about getting into WoW now? Huge content overload. That's a Blizzard problem, man. I agree with you. It is definitely an issue. I know I made this graph at least 2 years ago. There's a video on it. Yeah, where it's like the red is like the people in the middle that aren't happy, and then the green ones are happy. I've said this for years. Like, I don't really, to be honest, like the lawsuit is like, it's all noise to me, in my opinion. Like, yes, obviously I don't like it. I cover it, I talk about it, etc. It's bad. However, this is not, it has no impact on what my view of the game is. It has no impact on why I don't like something or in the game. I don't really give a shit about it, to be honest, because I don't work at the company. The thing is with the lawsuit is like, it's a huge impact on the game. It's a huge impact on the company, and it makes a big difference. And a lot of people that like made the game that we thought were really impactful on making the game good turned out to be drunk abusers. And it's like, what the fuck? So like, yeah, of course I've covered it because it's part of like, I don't know, like my responsibility as a content creator. I think a lot of people want to hear what I have to say about it because most people that cover it are biased. And I feel like I'm not biased. And I'm sure they think they're not biased too, right? I mean, I'll grant you that. I'm probably biased in my own way, but I feel like I can give it a fair shake better than other people can. But like, yeah, I do feel like it's a big issue that like Blizzard is catering to like the extremes of the player base and they're not listening to the overall majority. And I think that you can see this if you want to talk about like more recent stuff. I think that you can absolutely see this because whenever you look at the success of these other games, like New World even, is it like New World is a game that does cater to that kind of like that middle. And Final Fantasy caters to that middle. And I think that's why so many people are playing these other games. It's like Lost Ark, I think to some degree caters to that middle. And they want to see people that cater for that middle. Yeah, it's way too much of a focus on the tail end of player bases.
Basic fulfillment.
Let's watch this video.
You know what felt really cool? Getting a trait from the Box of Many Things, or the Titanic research thing from patch 8.3. I already put in the work. Waiting ain't work, even if I can do.
That's actually a really good point. I really agree with this. I actually really liked the tower knowledge system in Torghast. I unironically thought that it was well done. And I think that I didn't really like, honestly, I like the tower knowledge system way more than I like the vision system. I thought the tower knowledge system was way better than the vision system. Shame it was capped. I mean, bro, like, if it wasn't capped, like, it would just be a disaster. Shame it wasn't capped. Yeah, I feel like having it capped to some degree is not that bad, but the cap should be a little bit higher. It's hard to say. Like, I think that the Torghast system would have been even better if you didn't have to do it for the legendaries. It made Torghast from a 3 of 10 to a 5 or 6 out of 10. Yeah, exactly. And they're making it better. And I think that's good. I really do. It would be great if it was released at the start of the expansion. True.
Do other things in the meantime, because then why have the wait time? It makes the currency boost that was announced earlier feel pretty meaningless.
Yeah.
What's the big whoop in getting more ciphers if I still have to wait as long? And then there's having the lofty requirement of completing the entire tree. It seems like a bit much. Like, hey, thanks for completing the tree and unlocking all these perks. Here's flying to make you forget about most of them. Now, to the team's credit, the research unlocks are as much about exploration as they are about outdoor combat. It's just kind of a conundrum because flying over everything is a very powerful perk. But I also understand the meaning of wanting to let players enjoy the game on the ground for at least a little while. So I'll offer a couple of suggestions.
Here's what they should do. Whenever the first group on your server clears the raid on Heroic, everybody gets flying. That's what I would do. Like, that's off the top of my head. On Mythic, nah, that would take too long. Because, like, there would be some servers that would, like, never have flying. It would have to be on Heroic. Yeah, like, I thought about Mythic because I went through it in my head. I was like, oh, could it be on Mythic? No, because, like, dead servers and shit, you know? So, like, yeah, Mythic would take too long. And, yeah, that would be really cool. And it could also, you could have it be, it's so stupid. Why? Why is that worse than just a system? I think that, like, I do feel like to some degree, there is value in, I like how in WoW, at the beginning of the expansion, you don't have flying. I like that. I think that's better. Now, there should be some zones maybe that have flying from the beginning if they have, like, it's like Storm Peaks or, like, Ice Crown, you know? Sure. But in general, I think this is fine. It's good. And, like, unlocking it should be something that's fun. And I think it should be something that people look forward to. And, like, for example, what if they had a system kind of like the Encourage War effort, where, like, the more people that were out there doing dailies in the zone, it would increase the bar, and, like, once the bar got filled up as a server-wide effort, they were able to, like, unlock flying through some sort of, like, spatial apparatus thing, right? You just add it into the lore. Like, there's plenty of things that would be way cooler than just clicking a bunch of buttons, right? That's it. It's not stupid. Give it to all players, even ones who can't play 8 hours a day. Yeah, because it gives them a sense of shared accomplishment, even with people, and it gives them a sense of server community, and it gives them a sense of a shared accomplishment. Like, it's a really important thing for MMOs. You remember back in the day whenever you had, like, the first guy in your guild get Dragon Wrath, or, like, your tank get Thunder Fury, or your best DPS warrior or DK, or, well, let's be honest, warrior, get Shadowmourne? Like, that was a guild accomplishment. And I would feel happy for the person who got it. And that is beautiful. That is what you need to build on. Or Valinir, yeah, like some big accomplishment that a player has. And that's something we don't really have a lot. Holy cap. That's not a cap. I literally have videos celebrating it on my YouTube channel. Yeah. I remember the whole thing. It was awesome. I remember even the first guy on our server that got it. His name was Desire. He joined our guild, and he turned out to be a complete jackass later on. But he was a good warlock for a long time.
Then we'll let the commenters below do the rest of the suggestion and the flaming, that sort of thing. How about we lift the research time entirely?
Yeah.
This gives meaning to a currency boost for alts. Players are already going to progress at their own pace too, and there's no competitive advantage, but this is without knowing what else can be explored on the map that might require flight.
Yeah.
Or there could be a compromise on research, like only have a research time for unlocking each column, all the top traits, but the rest of the traits just need cipher currency. Speaking just for me, it's not about the work, it's the additional time that gives me a problem, this double gating. It just really sucks that almost every node has a day-long wait to it, and all the concurrent research does is compel me to farm harder, so I can have researches constantly running on every column.
You have to log on
and then there's the
time
flying itself. There are mysterious spots here on the map that I mentioned that so far they're impossible to get to, and believe me, I tried. If these places are only reached via flight, then I can welcome the notion that flying has unlocked a layer of content in a way that hasn't been done in years, and I appreciate that. If not, then I gotta wonder what's flying even for in Zereth Mortis. I suppose it's for easier farming of materials that let me craft the pets and the mounts, and for alts, I guess, if they have any reason to do anything in Zereth Mortis at all. I'll try to end things on a kind of neutral note. I am excited to see what's next, and I did want to share some foot-in-the-mouth feedback because regardless of how I might feel, I just think this grind plus wait is going to stick out like a sore thumb, and it's going to bring back not-so-fond memories of patch 9.1 and Renown. I hope this gets some visibility, so if you want to help out, like the video, share it with others, and come back soon for more 9.2 coverage. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.
I've talked to this guy a couple of times before. I've watched his videos now probably since like Legion or BFA. He makes some pretty good content. Some things he says I disagree with, but I definitely completely agree with this video. I totally do. I think everything that he's saying in the video makes a whole lot of sense, and he's talking some real shit here. Yeah, so there we go. And I really hope that they're able to get this under control and like stop wasting people's time for no reason. Like, there's no reason. Making it take a week does not improve the player experience. I'll say that for sure.